Good morning, everybody. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you are listening to God, Sex, and Love. Your daily dose of inspiration and juice. It is March the 26th, 2021, and today the topic is how brazen can you be? Y'all, I may look a little tired if you're watching me live right now. Y'all can blame my husband for that. Tell me why. At maybe 11 midnight or whatever time it was, I had just, drifted off to sleep. He come kissing on me. And now, you don't get me wrong. I don't mind being kissed on and whatnot, you know. Uh, but, but unless you're gonna put me back to sleep, don't wake me up. Because obviously it took me a long time to get back to sleep. Um, you know, so I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, husband, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just say it. Anyway, maybe that's too TMI for you guys. I don't know, but I mean, that's just the reality of what had happened. And so, yeah, when my alarm went off, I had just went off to sleep again, and so yeah. But I went ahead and got on up and everything and came on in here and did my prayer meditation and everything like that. So after my prayer meditation, it got me thinking about unconditional love. And I guess there's a lot of things. I mean, well, one, I think I've talked about it before on the juice. But I mean, obviously we could talk about the subject again, but I don't know, something about it this morning when I was looking at the verses just didn't resonate per se. But then, like, in my mind, it went from unconditional love to words and things that are centered around like infidelity. Um, Now, there could be several reasons why this pops into my mind. I wasn't necessarily thinking about this at the time, but as I started to write these verses, and maybe even right before I went live here today, um, I started to think about this show that I tuned in last night to watch Love and Marriage Huntsville. Y'all probably know it. Um, yeah, I just watched. I think it's the most recent episode. I watched it last night, and it was, I don't say shocking. I mean, I guess the subject of infidelity tends to come up a lot in these reality shows or any type of content, really. I don't know. Something about the interaction between the couple last night when I watched it. Um, Kind of was a little bit just disturbing. It was a little disturbing. It was a little like sad, of course sad, but disturbing a little bit. Long story short, I mean, if you guys watch the show, then you guys may know the couple I'm referring to. Um, I won't even say their names right now because I mean that it's not important. Their name's not necessarily important right now. Um, but basically, the situation is that the husband, um, it seems, has been constantly you know, cause of infidelity in the marriage. And now it's to the point where he's having a child outside of the marriage. And, the wife isn't, I mean, she's, ready for a divorce and everything like that. Now, again, this is an ongoing thing, hearing about uh, adultery and different things happening in marriages and stuff like that, and people that aren't faithful. I mean, obviously, you guys know that there's a gentleman. Um, his dirty laundry got aired. I would say this earlier this week. Um, I don't know if he was a relationship guru, but something like that. He would always be like one of those men speaking on men and how they need to treat women and X, Y, and Z. And then this comes out about him. Um, I mean, I will say in regards to this season, this is just a general thought for me in this season. It's like, man, yeah, you gotta be like, you need to really, really be who you say you are. You need to, if you're gonna be a follower of Christ, you really need to be that. If you're gonna be a representation of Christ, you really need to be that, especially in this season. Because I mean, well, all the time, really. But if you all ain't noticed, there's a lot of things that are being revealed in this season. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're not living right, if you're not doing the right things, then a lot has become exposed. And the word says that this will happen, that the truth will come to the light and everything like that. But we just need to be a little bit more careful about what we do, say, and all of that. Because I mean, the truth will come to the light, like what you know things that we do. But I didn't listen to the situation yet. So again, I'm not gonna do too much speaking on these individuals and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just another example of infidelities in marriages. And don't get me wrong, hey, women do it too, right? So we're not gonna sit here and act like all the time that it's the man. Women are, you know, being adulterous and fornicating in their marriages and all this stuff too. So, um, yeah. Now this could be a testament to a lot of things. It could be a testament to like, people in their mindset about marriage. Uh, it could just be, people being selfish and everything like that. I think what was standing out to me yesterday as I watched the episode that I just was sharing with you guys, just the way the gentleman, and I'll still call him that, but the way he was like lashing out at his wife about things that he felt like she wasn't doing, being the cause of him doing the things he did. And I mean, people do that though. I mean, that's no surprise either. People do that throughout life. Instead of taking responsibility and accountability for his actions of what he did to, cause the issue in the marriage, whatever the case was, or cause the issue, uh, or stepping outside of the marriage, whatever the case is, he puts it back on, the wife or whatever. And I mean, obviously, she ends up getting upset at some of the things he's saying because he was really being like this thing here say brazen about the situation, being like pretty much this was your fault that this happened. When at the end of the day, like no, it's like so one of the things that popped into my mind as I was reading verses about infidelity, or actually, I want to say right before infidelity came into my mind, I was thinking about unconditional love, and this kind of came into my mind. This whole uh, concept of like, in spite of what your spouse do or don't do, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. I don't think I really thought about that. I mean, I think I ended up listening to a sermon. It was a while ago, but it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was Christ's Forgiveness. Pastor David Lynn, he was speaking on marriage and everything like that. And it's like, regardless of whether your spouse is doing what they're supposed to do or not, you're still supposed to do what you're supposed to do. Um, and that's not, of course, we think the opposite, we live the opposite, we do the opposite, right? We're like, oh, if they don't do what they supposed to do, then I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do. Or in my mind, I want to justify stepping out of the marriage, or I want to do whatever case is. when at the end of the day, well, one, that shouldn't be. Two, the unconditional love should be going both ways. It's like, um, at least, I mean, according to the word and according to like, what the pastor was sharing, um, you guys got to let that marinate on your own. If that's something that, you're kind of struggling with, or you don't like that idea, if that's pulp to you, that you have to, that you should be, especially as believers, right? Regardless of what your husband or wife do, you need to still do what you're supposed to do as a husband or wife. Um, Now, obviously, if someone is, well, so when we talk about this whole thing of infidelity and adultery and all this stuff, now, I mean, we talked about the loopholes and stuff before, right? So we all know the main loophole in this whole thing is that, technically, divorce, you can get divorced when your spouse steps out, um, because they've broken the covenant. And I mean, little do we know, um, it is said in the Word of God, like how, I mean, well, one, how important marriage is, but then also that pretty much marriage represents the covenant between God and the church. So that's what marriage represents. It's just like a earthly representation of what the relationship between God and us is supposed to be. Um, So obviously, when people step out of their marriage, they're breaking that covenant. And that is a reason to get divorced. Uh, Now, I think the thing is, if a spouse chooses to continue to show you unconditional love in spite of that, and then you continue to do the things you do to almost like spit in their face, or almost like whatever you may think is a derogatory thing, to do that constantly to someone is a lot, and one shouldn't well, now this is just me and my little earthly thinking and my little human earthly thinking, um but this is based on Bible as well. But well, one shouldn't be surprised if eventually respect is lost, and love is gone, and all these things, um because, well, one, again, if we look at the word of God, technically people don't have to stay in situations that like that. People can get divorced, and people can you know uh and that is the main reason. That is the main reason you can. It's like that's the one thing that is like, unless it's infidelity, unless it's sexual immorality, whatever the case is. So if someone chooses to love you through that, and chooses to still show you unconditional love, and you continue to do them wrong, like, that's that is something else. That is something else. So with that being said, so like I said this morning, I mean, eventually my thought about unconditional love transferred into thinking about infidelity and adultery and all this stuff. And so let's take a look, in case we don't know what adultery means. Now, adultery says, the definition says, voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not his or her spouse. The word infidelity and fornication, all of those definitions center around that same sentiment. Um, yeah. So now, obviously, sexual intercourse is I think we tend to think like that sex is just sex, and that it's not this huge big thing. I mean, that's how we try to act. But I mean, obviously, it's a spiritual connection. There's much more going on than just the act. Um, so obviously, you know, this is why I guess God has given us this, if you want to call it a loophole, or this thing to be like, hey, well, obviously they didn't commit to their covenant. They didn't commit to, their vows. And so yeah. But see, I guess for me, like it's easy to talk about this whole side of like the natural side, right? It's easy to think about like, oh, someone's cheating on someone else and all this stuff and the stuff that happens on earth. But I think the deeper side of this is that, again, with marriage being a representation of the relationship between God and man and how it's supposed to be anyway. Um, like if anybody can understand what it's like to be a spouse that has been cheated on, but you still try to love them through it or love them past it or love them after it, um, even when you don't have to, biblically. Um, if anyone can understand that, that would be God. Because that again, there's plenty of verses and plenty of like scenarios where um God is talking to, I mean, I guess in particular like the nation of Israel, but all of us about like this whole thing in regards to like he has his unconditional love and he loves us in spite of everything we do. And he still is like has that open door for us. And when he don't have to, right? And so perhaps this is why some people decide to uh I mean, at least for me, when I look at people that decide to stay, even though biblically they don't have to stay, I'm like, well, hey, this gives me an idea of what it looks like for God, um, in our situation. Um, but I mean, I guess it's like, whoever's doing the so I mean, again, we can think about this scenario in just the earthly sense, and we can also think about it in the spiritual sense. That's my whole point of me sharing that. So I don't know which way you need to look at it today in regards to this conversation of how brazen can you be? I mean, we can, like I said, we just think of, hey, let's think of America. Let's think of, your individual relationship. I don't know. I don't know what you need this for. Uh, but, um, there's a lot to be said about like or to the person or to the individuals or whatever the case is that feel as if that they can be brazen with their infidelity or with their adultery, or with their lack of commitment or with their breaking of their vows and everything like that. So here's some verses I came across regarding that. So Isaiah 47:10 says, "You felt secure in your wickedness. You said, 'No one see me.' Your wisdom and your knowledge led you astray, and you said in your heart, 'I am, and there is no one besides me.'" Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess again, if we just think about like this earthly idea, right? Let's just think about the infidelity in a marriage real quick. Yeah, if you go and step outside of your marriage, then that's what you're saying. You're saying to yourself like, "Oh, no one's gonna find out," or maybe you don't care. Some don't care at all. But sometimes in your mind you might be thinking like how you're just, especially if you're married, it's like, okay, well, you're ignoring your vows, you're ignoring your family, you're ignoring your spouse, you're ignoring everything that you have committed to. And yeah, I mean, that's you know obviously it's a selfish act. um and yeah, but I mean, honestly, well, again, the truth was going to come to the light. So I mean, and yeah, someone does see you. I mean, at the end of the day, God sees you, if nobody else. So um yeah, but that's just something to think about right there. Now we could go on to Isaiah 47:11. It says, "But evil shall come upon you, which you will not know how to charm away. Disaster shall fall upon you, for which you will not be able to atone, and ruin shall come upon you suddenly, of which you know nothing." I mean, See, I, there's a lot to be said here, I think. But I guess the one thing that just came to my mind now is that perhaps, again, if people aren't studying the word of God and not acknowledging the word of God, then I mean, how can you uh I mean, if you never heard that verse right there, then maybe that's another reason why people don't like value marriage or don't think that the things that they do matter, and maybe even in their like, as I watched the gentleman last night, and he was at one point talking to his wife, or I mean, at least she was in that scene, but bringing up the fact about their 4 children, and it's like, well, sir, did you think about your 4 children when you was doing what you was doing? Like, you know, obviously you didn't think about your 4 children, so why are you trying to use that as a emotional tie to make your wife feel bad or something like that. At the end of the day, if your wife did not step out of the marriage and you did, then that's your fault. Like, you messed up the marriage, sir. And don't I mean, at the end of the day, take some accountability for that. If you want to save your marriage, because that was the other thing too. Like, this happened like right after the scene where he was having a conversation, and the friend was trying to, you know, give him advice about, like, ways to save his marriage or whatever the case is. And then in the very next scene, he's like berating the wife, like blaming her and all these different things. And it's like, well, one, you don't seem like somebody that's trying to save your marriage. One, two, um, don't bring up the emotional tie of our children if you went out here and did this thing, and now you've created another child. Like, this is, you know uh but again, like, let's think about the spiritual aspect of this though, right? Don't we do this to God all the time? You know, we don't spend no time with them. We don't pray. We don't, worship. We don't do nothing. But we expect them to do all the things for us. And then at the end of the day, we out here just doing whatever, and just, not acknowledging them in any of our in any ways, and everything like that. And then have the nerve to bring up, well, Lord, don't you, I thought you loved me, or I thought you was mine. It's like, well, goodness gracious, like, can you put yourself in someone, I mean, obviously we can put ourselves in God's shoes, but I mean, hopefully this whole conversation about infidelity helps you understand at least that what God could possibly feel like, and I can't sit here and say that this is exactly how he feels, but you know I think that it's a good representation of what God could feel like in these situations. So just something to think about. That's all I'm saying. Now, Proverbs 6:32 says, "He who commits adultery lacks sense. He who does it destroys himself." I mean, what else can you say about that? Like I said, as I was watching the gentleman last night do what he was doing and stuff, I mean, obviously it's eating away at him what he's done, and how he's broken up his family, and all these different things, but he's lashing out in a way where he's blaming others, and not like taking any accountability and everything like that. But again, spiritual side as well, like, the more and more that we continue to deny God, the more and more that we continue to try to, live our life without him, it ultimately destroys us at the end of the day. Um, and maybe we won't see it in his life, but we'll see, after. um, According to the word of God, according to what I'm understanding here, so I mean, and there's a lot of verses in the Go Deeper section. I mean, it's going to be centered around all of this. I would say, to get a better understanding of what I'm saying about, like, the relationship between God and man and whatnot, check out Ezekiel 16, the entire thing, um, to hopefully get a better understanding of, like, how God looks at us and our lack of commitment, and our breaking of the covenant of what we're supposed to be. But yeah, that is the juice, y'all. I don't know if this was some sour bitter juice for you, get full of pulp. But I mean, here it is. And I hope you enjoyed it. But speaking of, I mean, speaking of sexy, tonight on our episode of God, Sex, and Love, the talk show, we're going to be talking about what should Christians do when we're horny. We're going to talk about it from a single perspective as well as a married perspective. So, yeah, y'all, what should we do when we're horny out here? Or a better way to say that would be, what should we do when we're hot and bothered? But yeah, that conversation is happening tonight, or well, it's going live tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. You can watch it on our Facebook, YouTube, and or our website, godsexandlove.com. Um, like I said, this conversation was a long time coming. At least for me, this is one of my number one questions that I had as a single woman. Um, back in the day. And yeah, and sometimes I have the question now, to be honest, as a married woman. It's like, uh, because sometimes okay, so I mean, we already kind of chatted about, the gentleman and the things that he was saying. And basically it came out earlier in the season or in the previous season how he's saying, like, I guess his wife wasn't fulfilling him sexually and everything like that. And so he was bringing that type of energy and that type of information to that conversation that I was watching last night. He was like, well, you weren't satisfying me. You weren't X, Y, and Z. And I went over here and this person was. And I'm over here like, my goodness, like, what is she supposed to, how is she supposed to react to someone constantly saying that and throwing that in her face in front of a couple of other people that were supposed to be like mutual friends? You know what I mean? That, like, it's already embarrassing enough that, you cheated. Then you're having a baby. So that's a whole nother thing, because that means you cheated unprotectedly. Then, you're throwing it in her face that you feel like she didn't fulfill you X, Y, and Z. Now, at the end of the day, that doesn't change what you were supposed to do as a husband, right? Or as a father, right? Because again, that's what I'm talking about earlier. This whole thing about, regardless of whether your wife or husband is doing whatever they're supposed to do, you supposed to still do what you're supposed to do. And so yeah, so it's the same thing. So sometimes again, there's different reasons why, people maybe aren't fulfilling their duty as a husband or wife, especially sexually or something like that. And so at the end of the day, am I going to go and cheat on my husband because he's not fulfilling me sexually, or vice versa? Well, obviously that's something we should not do, right? I mean, I guess that's already the answer to that question. I just ruined the episode for you. I'm just kidding. Nah, I mean, we can make all kinds of little excuses, I guess is my point. But yeah, but if you want to know what you're supposed to do if you're hot and bothered, tune in tonight to the episode and check it out and see uh, what we had to say about it and everything like that. So, but in the meantime, y'all, thank you so much for listening to God, Sex, and Love. Your little dose of inspiration, the juice. I pray you guys go forth and have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. Bye bye. Yep, y'all. There you go. There you go. Man, that's a heavy topic of But again, like I said, for me, it's not just about the conversation of cheating. I think it's more so about like this whole thing between God and man, and like really, really seeing it for what it is. God sees it as fornication, right? Not uh like a broken commitment, a broken covenant. Um, because he's doing all the things to showed his love, doing all the things for us to be able to come to him and to have a relationship with him and everything like that. And then if we still are denying that, then I believe from what I'm seeing in the Bible and from my little humble understanding that that is a representation of fornication to him. and adultery to him and everything like that. But like I said, you guys can check out Ezekiel 16 to get an idea of what I'm talking about here. But there's plenty of other verses and things like that in the Go Deeper section in general about this topic. I hope that it encourages you today to hear this somehow, or at least brings something to your attention. You know, yeah. But y'all, I meant to say it on the podcast, but I mean, I can tell you guys this episode that I just recorded is episode 100 of season 3. So that means that starting tomorrow, if the Lord's will, I'll be starting over a new season, and it will be season 4 of the Juice. And so, yeah, y'all. I mean, I know for sure that just represents that I've done 300 episodes of the Juice. That's what this represents today. Uh, it's amazing. Like, I mean, my goodness, like I shared with you guys yesterday, I didn't know. And so to be here, um, I don't know. Like I said, it's an amazing journey, and what can I say, man? It's just at the end of the day, I don't think I'm doing anything that somebody else can't do. Um, Obviously, again, everybody has their gifts, everybody has their talents. Um, so yeah, but I just think that hopefully again what the just by doing this, I am somehow doing the Great Commission. Now that's what I'm hoping at the end of the day. And I hope that I'm encouraging you to do the same thing in regards to, yes, the Great Commission, but and also just taking time to do Bible study and stuff like that. So to know that I've committed to at least 300 days of this is a blessing, man. Like, it's a blessing. Cause I mean, I remember not long ago. I mean, it was just last year, when I started or whatever. So yeah, I remember, um, those times when I'm like, man, I should read the Bible. Or, man, I guess I'll at least read a Bible verse of the day, and and just kind of go with that. But like I said, it's just been a blessing to take out time to commit to doing this and being like, I'm going to be intentional about doing this. And so, yeah, I mean, that's amazing to me. 300 episodes. I mean, and that's just with the Juice. That's not even with the talk show. That's not with the other conversations that we had on the podcast. So, you know, God can do amazing things through you, friend. That's all I'm trying to share with you today. So, but all right, man. I already done talked to you guys for a good little minute. Y'all probably tired of looking at my face and hearing my voice. So I'm gonna let you guys go. Um, Shout out to you, and thanks for tuning in. I saw when you commented, or at least I saw maybe like an hour. I don't know, but yeah, I saw when you commented this morning, and well, it was this morning for me, but obviously you said it was 4 something p.m. for you. Um, I was telling my husband, like, man, I think it's just amazing, like in regards to time differences and stuff like that, and everything. Then my husband, with his technical self, was like, well, actually, the world's been the time, and like, boy, go to sleep. No, but all right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna let you guys go for real. Y'all got, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to talking to you all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. New season, new day.